Have you ever wanted to learn more about direct-to-seller marketing? Well, to be honest, we absolutely do too. We do a lot of MLS, you may know, but we want to learn how to do direct-to-seller marketing and be really, really good at it. So today, we're sitting down with someone who started from absolute ground zero, got themselves built up to a significant business, wholesaling lots and lots of properties and doing direct-to-seller marketing like a pro.
Welcome back to the channel. If you don't know us already, we're the Boeckle Brothers, and I'm Landon.
I'm Jesse.
And we flipped over 300 properties now in Las Vegas. This is our market where we are house flippers. We own a brokerage called the Boeckle Group Real Estate, and now we are coaches and educators with the Boeckle Brothers Academy. Today, we are talking to a direct-to-seller monster. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you, Michael.
Absolutely, guys. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, let me be honest. First and foremost, we may be having this podcast a little bit selfishly because you do a lot of high-level direct-to-seller marketing and wholesaling off of that activity. I got to learn.
Yeah, we're here to pick that brain today.
We need to learn from you.
I'm an open book, guys. Let's do it.
And maybe we'll teach you something too, hopefully.
I have a lot to learn about the MLS, that's
for
sure.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so quick backstory. We have tried direct-to-seller how many times?
3 years running.
Okay, so and we tried it. We tried it with ourselves. We hired cold callers to bring in the office from Indeed and had them call ABC list. And then we tried to partner up with people in our office, and we were going to use some VAs, and they were out of here.
Ring was voicemails. I mean, we got deals from it. Like we've done probably, let's say in our direct-to-seller marketing endeavors, we've probably done 15 deals.
Yeah, and
we're
in the black.
3 years.
We're in the black for sure. We've bought a flip. We did really good on that flip, but it's not consistent. And just recently, this year, we've decided to give it another push, and I'll just break down what we're doing real quick, and then I want to hear about what you do, and like we can dissect your whole business. So what we're doing is we have some VAs. Those VAs callers are out of
four of them
out of Egypt. We're using actually essentially like a management company. They're called Call Magic Leads. So they're responsible for finding the data, skipping the data, providing the data to the callers, making sure the callers call, and then basically the callers implement those leads directly into our CRM, and we take over from there.
Gotcha.
So that's what we have going on right now.
Okay.
And from there, so in the back room of our office now, we have a data manager who's managing the data that's coming in, organizing it, and then we have a lead manager who's here 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, following up on the leads that the lead management company inputs into our CRM on a daily basis. So with 4 callers, we're probably getting like 6 to 8 leads a day, I would say.
Okay.
Are we on the right track?
You guys are on the right track.
Okay, good. That's a relief.
I'd like to know, like, when you did all those marketing efforts before, what happened? Like, did you...
I think it just wasn't a dedicated focus and attention to it. It was something like, we should start this on the side.
Yeah.
And we were so dedicated to our primary business and buying investment properties off the MLS and flipping luxury homes that it was like just didn't get the right attention, the right detail, the right input that it needed because we were learning to make adjustments and improve over time. It just like we encountered stumbling blocks and they just fell on our face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we're running a brokerage, a flip company doing 75 plus properties a year, and trying to start multiple other companies at the same time. As you know, it's a super labor intensive business to run the direct to seller marketing business and manage the lead managers, manage the data managers. And I just don't think we were able to give that time. We needed one person, we needed to find that who that could manage and be disciplined in that daily activity of managing the other people.
Lead it.
Yeah. And we finally found someone that we think is definitely up to par with that. So
that's going to be the game changer for you guys. I mean, having that system, having that person, it is a whole nother business.
Yeah.
And I can speak to how I got started if you guys would like to get into
Absolutely.
Love to. So tell everybody how you got started, where you got started, what you've built today, and what you're doing right now.
For sure. So, Michael McDonald. I am from Nebraska. Obviously, I'm in Vegas. I live in Vegas now. I moved here 2 years ago, and I didn't know a single thing about real estate 4 years ago.
Okay.
I showed up to one of those education companies. They said, hey, learn how to make money in real estate with 0 to no money down. I said, show me how.
Seen a lot of those.
Sold me on the dream, right? And I invested a couple $1,000. At that time, I was working a W-2 job, making $30,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I was broke. Being honest, like I was completely broke, busted, and disgusted.
You wanted to live out the dream that they were teaching or that they were portraying.
They sold me on it, man. And essentially, I showed up to this event and did the 3-day event. Showed up to that. And they're like, okay, if you want to be successful in real estate, you need to have a coach. You need to have mentorship. And I said, yeah, I agree. Like I do. So they said, it'll be $25,000. I said, I don't have $25,000.
Yeah.
Like I'm broke, living paycheck.
I agree with you, but I don't have that.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, well, go do this, this, and this. We'll get you the credit. And so I basically they helped me raise $25,000. That was actually $60,000. Put $25,000 on a credit card. I get home from the event and my wife goes, hey, I have to show you something. And I said, oh no, what is this? And she's like, we're going to have a baby.
Wow.
And I said, you're kidding me. Like we're in so much debt, just bought a house, all this stuff. Like we're living the American dream, right? And little did I know that at that point in time, it was either I figured out how to make money in real estate or things were going to get pretty rough once that 25% interest on those credit cards started kicking in. And so that was my start to real estate, but it was actually kind of the opposite, as I was taught how to find properties on the MLS.
Oh.
And I started doing that, and I just failed terribly.
Sounds familiar.
I was making these lowball offers, and agents were just laughing at me. Like, first of all, I didn't know what I was talking about. My wife was just praying for me because she's like, you sound miserable on the phone. But I did that, and then I found a local mentor, paid another $20,000 for mentorship. As you guys can see, I'm not afraid to obviously invest.
No, it's a great point.
And so, yeah, did that. And then 6 months later, I finally figured out how to do wholesale real estate, direct to seller. Did my first deal and made $25,000.
Wow. Okay. And this was all in Nebraska?
This was in Nebraska.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I can't even imagine what the MLS is like there. I don't know anything about that. And are you in a big city in Nebraska?
It's Lincoln. So
Lincoln,
it's the capital. I mean, 250,000 people.
Okay.
That's a big state. Yeah. All right, big city. So when you were searching for the MLS, you weren't a traditional agent doing it. Did you have investors that you were talking to or working with, or what was the point of looking on the MLS at that time?
I was purely just following the instruction that company gave me.
Okay.
And I wanted to figure out how to find deals. And by finding deals, I was just offering low. And they were, nobody was taking the offers.
So find a deal, get it locked up at a discount, and be able to give it to an investor type of thing?
Absolutely.
Then you got to figure out the next step from there pretty much, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I did that and did that first deal. And that was like literally everything I needed to have faith to be able to keep producing that. Mm-hmm. So the first year I did like seven wholesales.
7 wholesales. Okay.
Working full time at a job, and it was brutal. Like you guys talk about finding the lead, managing the leads, acquiring all of this stuff. I was doing everything.
One-man show.
I was doing the marketing. I was doing the direct mail, all of it. I was even driving down neighborhoods, writing down property addresses. The stuff that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
And so after
the hard work,
the
hard start up from scratch type work.
I can't tell you guys how many times I wanted to give up. Honestly, like it was painful.
Yeah.
But what I didn't do is I didn't give up. I got that first deal, and that was the proof I needed to tell myself I can do this. Mm-hmm. So after fast forward about another year, my wife comes up to me one day. She's like, "You look like you're 50. Like your eyes are bloodshot. You got to do something." And I can tell that you're getting pulled in too many different directions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so she's said that we need to sell our house. And at that time, I had met a business partner who wanted to join forces, and she wanted to move to Vegas. And so on top of quitting my job, we sold our house, and we not only just did that, we moved to Vegas.
It's a big change.
It was, to say the least.
So you linked up with a partner, and that stuck, right?
Yep.
So he was okay with, or they were okay with you moving to Vegas and being remote at that time?
He was, yeah, surprisingly. So he's 20 years older than me.
Okay.
He was a full-time appraiser. He wanted to be full-time. He knew that I was ambitious, had full-time goals. And so we both quit our jobs at the beginning of 2019. 5 months later, I moved across the country, and that forced me to scale and delegate my business. And then obviously made some hires, and then kind of obviously the rest is history. But yeah.
So fast forward, now you live in Vegas. You have a business partner back in Nebraska. And do you have any other people operating in this company out there or out here?
Yes. So I have an acquisition manager.
Okay.
I have a disposition manager.
Nice.
I have a transaction coordinator. And kind of a lead manager. We're kind of in the transition of we need a full-time junior acquisition person.
Okay.
To kind of keep up with all the leads that we have coming in. We've actually got to a point where it was too many leads for our team to handle.
Everyone wants that problem.
It's a great problem.
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, if you're not having that problem, go get that problem, because
we're going to hire you to fix the problem.
So you've obviously scaled up. You've gone from a one-man show,
yes,
doing it all yourself, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. When you want to get started and you want to do this, you don't have anybody else to do it with. You got to make it happen. You got to wear all the hats all the time.
Yeah, and we've talked to a couple young guys who have kind of been in that same position of, it's so possible to go from broke and using credit cards and just figuring out your way, figuring out your why. Obviously, your wife being pregnant was probably a huge motivator and a huge why at that time.
big time.
But everyone has a different why, and just going for it. I mean, you took a huge leap of faith with that. You quit your job and you spent a lot of money on coaching and mentorship, which is huge, but it just shows, what comes out of someone who's disciplined and motivated and takes action. So good for you for doing that. It's huge.
So obviously the business has grown from a one-man show to multiple people. You got a team now. How has the business evolved from starting out doing maybe bird dogging, cold calling, door knocking, doing like everything yourself and all of those different activities? Have you continued to do all of those, or have you found that one is like your bread and butter and you're really good at this versus that? Like, where did it start and now where is it at with as far as like your marketing stuff goes?
Yes. So marketing is definitely something I'm excited to share with you guys, because that's what I've deep dived in. Just as a reference for anyone listening, is when I first started, it was $250 here, $500 here.
Yeah.
My business partner and I started, okay, we got to commit to $1,000. This isn't an expense. In reality, it is. We're going to just dedicate $1,000 a month to marketing, and let's try to get a deal. And so the key is, it started just with a couple different marketing channels. Is like we were doing direct mail.
Okay.
And we would just do it consistently enough, and then we would get some leads, and then we closed our first deal. So from there, we obviously kept some profit. We wanted to make a little bit of money for taking this risk to be in business, and then we would put more money back into the marketing. So we're always feeding this marketing machine.
Right.
And so what I started to understand is a lot of these guys who are spending $30,000, $40,000 a month, they're not just doing that for fun, right? Like, if you don't spend money on marketing, you're not going to get leads, like in the off-market space, right?
Totally.
So we've obviously had some referral business and all that, but it started with just that direct mail.
Okay.
And then we got deals, and then we introduced cold calling and texting.
Okay.
We hired our 2 to 3 people full time, and they started bringing in leads. And then from there is we just started to understand, okay, if we spend all this output on this marketing and get all this back, what can we do to kind of change that and spend money on a different form of marketing to get more inbound leads? So rather than working our faces off and spending 10 hours like grinding, talking to sellers and all this stuff all day long, what if we spent money on television? What if we spent money on PPC or online advertising, Facebook? And what if the leads just came to us?
Right.
So all the other avenues where someone has to pick up the phone and call you on.
Very, very proactive. So I look at marketing in 2 different avenues. Is you have the offline, which is more direct, like prospecting, and then you have the online, which is like people coming more passively into you. So it's almost like real estate. We can flip up a lot of houses, make a lot of money, but we have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
But if we start buying investments and start holding property, that money is going to keep coming in. So marketing is kind of the same way in the fact that if you spend this money, the leads are going to come to you, but you still have to have a good way of handling that traffic.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your follow-up system look like? Because I know follow-up, is probably one of the most important aspects of any type of marketing, whether it be direct to seller off market or even traditional marketing. What's your follow-up system look like?
It's essentially So there's a lot of CRMs out there. Like I mentioned to you guys in the beginning, is before offline, we use Podio. And so
cool. We do too.
Yeah, we have Podio.
Nice, nice. So we use Podio, and essentially it was like, you know, the lead comes in, it creates a task, and then that person has to fulfill that task. And if, depending on how that conversation goes, ideally we schedule an appointment, a next step, and then that person goes out, buys the house, right? In a perfect world.
Yeah. Happens
but
1 out of every 50 leads
50
that we
million.
get.
Exactly. In reality, it's the follow-up. Like if you don't have a system to organize all those people or all those people who you're talking to, how are you going to know when to call them and what to do? And so we not only have a manual way of doing that, we also have drip campaigns. So we have ways to click a button to say, hey, send this person a text at this time, maybe send them a ringless voicemail at this time, so on and so forth. And then that way, without us even thinking about it, is if that date comes around and we're busy closing other deals,
something happens. Follow up still happens, even if it's not person-to-person contact. You're talking to them in some way, shape, or form.
Correct.
So when a lead comes in, because this is something that we've heard so many different people, you know, so many different opinions on from good direct-to-seller marketers, is when a lead comes in that first day, if they don't answer the first time, how many times are you trying to call them that first day that lead comes in?
Okay, so this is funny. How many times do I want to call them? Well, I'm not on the phones nowadays, but this question varies because I tell my acquisition managers, it's like, hey, do whatever it takes. We spend a lot of money on marketing, and if we're not getting a hold of that person, somebody else is, or you guys, I mean, whoever, right? So I'm calling them 3 times in a row. I'm the crazy ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
When that call comes in,
It's a great way to put it.
you gotta be on the ball.
Yeah.
And so if you can't get a hold of them in that way, it's like text them, email them,
Anything.
go knock on the door. I mean, whatever it takes if it's in your backyard. Yeah. And so
there's never too much.
No.
Okay.
I've called somebody.
That's good to know.
If you want to get a hold of somebody, you will call them until they answer the phone.
Yeah.
Because especially when you're talking online ads like PPC, you guys are familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
I've spent $7,000 in a month in Vegas, and if a lead comes in and that lead sits in the system, I mean, it kind of makes my stomach turn a little bit because you know how much money you're spending on that lead particularly.
Sure.
And then to come find out the offer pad and Open Door offer,
Well, especially
above
PPC because they're actively online right now. So that speed to lead is essential with those types because they're looking and they may have entered information for, you know, Rocket Home Buyers right there. But then, okay, now that I'm done with that, well, my next search option is Open Door, is Purple Brick, is whatever. And I'm already over there. So if my phone's not ringing right away, then I'm already on to another solution. Definitely. So you can lose them very fast.
Which is why having that lead manager dedicated sitting here in the office all day is so important. It's so sad, man. I see so many people spend all this money on marketing in the beginning, and then like they're afraid to make that call. It's like the whole point of spending the money on the marketing was to get the lead so you can call and talk to that person and help them out.
Yeah.
Right. Or just try to close on an appointment. Try to get in front of that person, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of the times, you know, is it possible to do too much follow-up without closing and just saying, hey, I want to come over and meet you in person and talk to you in person about your needs? Because I feel like a lot of the times we'll talk to people versus just saying, hey, when can I stop by and talk to you in person about helping you with your home?
Yeah.
And that's something that we probably need to talk more about with our team is closing harder.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay to hear a no. Like if you ask for the sale or if you ask for the appointment and it's a no, then that's fine. They're not ready yet.
Sure.
But you just kind of got to be persistent and you have to just be okay with no and like don't chase the dog too hard because if they feel you're chasing them, then they're going to run away, right? I mean, there's a lot of, like we've done some sales, like REI sales training and stuff, which we run our acquisitions through. That stuff is definitely something I would encourage you guys to do for your acquisitions too if you haven't.
Because there's a lot of nuance in like how you talk to that person and how you gauge where they're at mentally and then how you maybe match that level that they're at and just so much psychology behind like talking to people to try and close essentially the point is to try and provide value to them and to get them to understand that that's what you're doing.
For sure.
Yeah.
And people can feel that, right? People can sense are you really in this to help them or are you just there to try to make $1 million? You know what I mean? And so that goes a long way.
One thing that I like about our business that we have the ability to do, and we talk to our team about, and we've talked about why we want to pursue the direct to seller so heavily, is we really do have multiple avenues that we could put them in, or boxes we could put them in, that help them with their needs. We don't have to buy it at a major discount as a flip property. Of course, that'd be the best case for us, but if we could list their property, that's great for the Boeckle Group brokerage.
Yeah.
You know, if we buy it as a rental, that's great for Jesse and I's portfolio. You know, if we buy it as a flip, great. But whatever the case is, we have 2, 3, 4 avenues that we could give to them and options we could give to them that's best for them, and it works for us. So we truly think we have a win-win scenario with our type of company.
Yeah.
And I think everyone should have those type of options for each homeowner they work with, because we try to disqualify people. So when they call in, it's like, okay, well, have you thought about just being a landlord? How does that sound? Would you want to do a listing? What do you think about that? And they'll tell you every reason why they don't want to, or you'll know who your competition is.
Right.
Sure.
So it's good to give those options. And then also, too, another toolbox thing that we have is we can do creative financing. And so we've recently started doing that. So we have a handful where it's like just such a weird situation. They didn't have equity, and we can provide this option. And so it's like, okay, cash, creativity, or list it with the brokerage.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you have a brokerage that you send your retail listings or retail clients to?
That's the newest venture. I haven't talked about that yet.
Okay.
But yes, we just started a brokerage.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And that's back in Nebraska, I'm guessing.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Cool.
So you're like basically virtual from here. You have boots on the ground, you have people out there, but all of your role and your activity is done remotely. I guess a remote's a better word for it.
It is, and we don't even have an office yet, but we're going to be getting an office, especially after seeing your guys' office. Like, this is pretty cool. Need to have one of these.
Thank
but yeah, man. So I work from home. Like, I literally work in my home office, and I communicate with my team on a daily basis. I don't walk properties.
Yeah.
I truly don't walk properties, and like our business is entirely off market, and that's all we do. We communicate with everyone over the phone, and I've even done other virtual markets.
Wow.
So like not only Nebraska, but also other parts of the country, and just figuring out a system to be able to capitalize on that lead, just closing over the phone.
Sure,
if you have
because
to.
I mean, if you have that system down internally, it's right. Let's buy data over here, and let's call those people. We can call them from anywhere.
Correct.
And now we can go through the same sales process and get them to the same like end result where they're ready to sell our homes. The only thing we're missing is maybe one person to go out there, and those are to take pictures or sign contracts. Like, those are easy people to actually partner with and work with in any location.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's your technique to lock properties up virtually so often? I mean, obviously there's situations that lend their hand to easily asking someone to sign a contract or virtually and not having to see the property. But a lot of the times we feel like we have to go look at the properties. How do you avoid that feeling? How do you lock properties up without ever seeing them?
Just being very transparent, and then being as trusted as possible. If you're on the phone with a person and you're rushing through, or you're kind of saying stuff that has them uncomfortable, they're never going to sign a contract with you over the phone. So the key is just to build that relationship, show the value. And I mean, I flat out just say, hey, yeah, have the other people go through, get offers, and then we'll talk after that. And then obviously if the offer is too low and I can make it work, then we'll do it. And so bottom line is we still tell them, hey, we still have to validate and verify.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we need to have something in writing to say,
Sure.
hey, we're moving forward on this. But after our inspection, if things are completely crazy and like the walls are falling in, we're going to have to talk.
Of course.
But if everything looks good, we'll give you the thumbs up and the green light, and we'll move forward with it. But ultimately, I've only done probably, a handful that have been other states where I haven't had a person in my team to go through it. But having that other local contact is key.
Sure. Okay. Let me circle back real quick. So we started where you began, where you sent mailers out, got some first deals, then implemented cold callers. Now, fast forward to today, are you still mailing, still cold calling, or doing other things? What are your like bread and butter marketing aspects now?
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have heard of wholesale real estate. If anybody, hasn't, then you should look it up, because you can basically figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, like everyone and their dog knows how to get into wholesale real estate.
Yep.
And so with that being said, what's the cheapest way to get into it? Skip tracing, calling homeowners, and
Right.
you can do that all on your own.
You
so,
can do it.
So what I found is once this kind of flood, it seems like if people started getting into the business, those marketing channels got a little more saturated and a little bit more competitive. And so we still do them in our business today, but with the text message marketing, it's very like targeted, very low volume. So that's not as much. But since then, as we've introduced PPC,
Okay.
we've introduced Facebook, we've introduced television. So I'm running TV commercials all over the state right now, and it's for brand authority. So one thing that I think we do a little different is we're creating a brand, just like you guys are, and it's like, this is the home buying company to sell to, right? You know, people in town, have created brands, and it's recognition. And so when people look us up online, like, hey, sell my house fast, like we're at the top. And on top of that, we have 55-star reviews. We're on Better Business Bureau. People start reading them, start seeing video testimonials, and all of a sudden, I can trust these guys.
This is the one I should use, right? Even in like retail and commerce and everything, like the customer needs to see the name 7 to 17 times before they decide to purchase something or whatever. So you're everywhere. You're online. You see an ad. You see it on Facebook. You see it on TV. I saw, okay, these are the guys that I need to use.
Yeah, we see OfferPad and these iBuyers still buying properties. Zillow may not be buying anymore as much, but we still see these other funds buying properties. Do you feel like the credibility that you give in the marketing that you put out, people like the local, smaller, more boutique home buyers than the corporations like OfferPad and the others? Or how do you compete against that?
It's very difficult. So I've done both ways. We've introduced a website in specific cities in the country locally, and then I've introduced a national website just to kind of split test this. And honestly, I don't think it matters as much as we all think it does.
Okay.
Like everyone wants to talk about local, and I think that's important, and I do see a ton of value in that. But what I will say is when somebody's ready to sell their house, I don't care who it is, if that's in front of them at the right time, they're going to sell to them if they have a good process and a good reputation.
Yeah. No, that honestly makes total sense.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear though, because you feel like OfferPad would feel a little bit more scammy if I'm a home seller that needs to sell my house for some sort of distressed situation. I'd rather go with the guy who has reviews and local and I could trust, and he comes to my door and I meet him. But it's pretty crazy to hear that you notice it hasn't made much of a difference.
Yeah, I know it has for our local market as far as the reputation goes. We don't have that online presence across the nation, but we have had people say, hey, we want to go with you because we liked you more, we trust you more, or this company wasn't local. So that it's went both ways for sure.
No, that totally makes sense.
But I've also beat the local company in a completely different state that I had no presence in too.
It will happen. It will happen. Yeah.
So what do you think your total monthly marketing spend is right now with all your avenues?
Yeah, that's a good thing to guess on. I just kind of throw a whole bunch out there and hope it sticks.
You lose track at some point.
You lose track, yeah. So with that being said, obviously it's a joke. We spend about $40,000 a month on marketing. And to those of you who are watching, is remember I said in the beginning, I only spent $250,000. So this is where the tracking is important. So if you guys are spending, $5,000 a month on cold callers and, whatever on your lead manager, is I want to know exactly how much money I'm spending on those channels. And then I want to reverse engineer it. Where did that lead come from? Is it associated with cold calling? Is it associated with direct mail? Is it associated with TV? We spend about $14,000 a month on TV. So with that being said, is I want to know every single dollar that's being spent, and I want to tie that back to the specific lead on where it came from. And at the end of the month, we just track our dollars spent versus our profits, and hopefully we're in the green. And if we're not, do we need to slash that marketing channel down like we did with texting?
Yeah, you want to make sure each individual avenue has its own ROI. And as soon as, you don't want to keep spending $14,000 on TV if you're getting no leads from them, if nothing's turning over.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's measurement, KPIs. Everybody's going to tell you that as soon as you start to build and grow, you got to know your numbers.
Absolutely. And I learned this the hard way. I didn't track my marketing in the beginning, and I started wondering, wow, making all this money, where's all the money going? It's like, oh, I spent $22,000 on billboards for 6 months and I didn't get a deal.
Right.
That's where it went.
Yeah. That's a black hole right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So billboards, didn't work for me. Not saying it doesn't work for others though.
So what would you, whether it's $250 where you started to $40,000 a month, if you're putting out marketing costs, what should your expectation be on ROI? Is it 3X? Is it 4X? Where do you determine whether it's worth continuing to spend or cut it out?
It really comes down to your overhead. If you're just getting started, like if you don't have a team, if you're hustling and you're doing all of it, I think you can get away with 3X. Now, if you have a little bit of an overhead, you have staff, you have payroll, you have office space, all of that, you probably need to be in the 4 to 5 times or 6, even better, to really make it make sense. That's just my opinion. I do have a marketing channel that is about a 3X return right now, and it's because I'm still fine-tuning everything. So I think 3X is probably the bare minimum. We try to be in the 4 to 6 range. That's probably more of a healthy profit.
Okay, that makes sense. Let me ask another, I guess, little selfish question for us so we can learn.
As well.
When it comes to you have all your deals locked up, where are you having the most success with selling them? So like your dispositions team, where or who do they use? Who's buying homes right now? What's that look like?
Yeah, so that's a good question because this is something that we fine-tuned a little bit.
And it changes.
It changes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With the market condition where it's at, is it as easy to get major discount flip properties right now? Because that's something we have a hard time with.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyone watching this who sees this and like, oh man, this guy's got it all figured out. It's like, I don't. Like this is a never changing thing. This is what I do full time, and I'm the provider for the family, and so I have to make this work because I refuse to go back and get a job. So I guess to answer your question, this is going to depend on your market. So out here, I've seen a lot of people selling it to the hedge funds and having a ton of success with that. Back in Nebraska, there's no hedge funds. So don't come marketing to Nebraska because
They're not buying out there.
They're not buying out there.
Okay.
And so people will call us as the hedge fund and say, hey, I see all these hedge funds buying up all these houses. It's like, oh, well, we're not a hedge fund, but we'll buy your house.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is with dispositions, we have phone numbers, we have emails of all of the active people. A lot of that you can find on Facebook.
Sure.
And really, man, with Facebook and technology, you can post a deal on like a Facebook group and just kind of say, hey, have a deal on XYZ, send me a PM if you're interested.
Yeah.
And then they'll reach out and then you get all the people through to sell your deal. But we've been doing a lot of wholetailing.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if your audience is familiar with that terminology, but essentially rather than just buying it and making our 5 to 10 on the low end of a wholesale is let's just buy it and let's just sell it retail.
Right.
And we'll just clean it out. We're not going to go in and do a huge extensive flip. So we do a combination of wholesale, which is assignments of contract, and then we'll do the wholesale where we buy it, clean it out, and then resell it. And then we'll do obviously flips. But the retail buyers, man, like that's where we're getting the most. That's where we're getting the most profits.
Yeah, we're working on trying to fine tune that because we actually have some really great properties that we want to wholesale because we think that's the best route to go. That's the most profitable route to go. We can't get them quite at the discount we need them to flip. They're also pretty clean properties as well, but they're definitely under market. They are definitely discounted, so we want to wholesale them. One problem we have with the wholesaling side of things is how do you finance these wholesale deals? Do you have a cash credit line that you use? Are you using hard money lenders? What are you using?
You got to buy it.
Yeah, I guess we're also talking about different price points here too. But
Much
how do you
different.
buy them?
Yeah, so we're talking a matter of $1 million houses, probably to $100,000 to $200,000 houses.
Yeah, okay.
So what I'm going to say isn't going to necessarily apply to you or everyone else, but the way we have done it is in the beginning, the first year is hard money.
Okay.
Hard money, everything.
Okay.
Let's just do as many deals as we can. Let's be responsible, but let's keep the deal flow going. After that, we're like, I'm done paying that high of interest rates.
Sure.
It's ridiculous. So after paying all that interest, we said, okay, we need to find some people who don't necessarily want to do what we're doing, but they have the money sitting on the sidelines. So we have 3 to 5 of those type of people who
Private lenders.
Private lenders.
Okay.
A few $100,000 that they trust us with, and they'll use the asset to back it up their money.
Yeah.
And so basically a promissory note, deed of trust, all that.
Yeah.
And then we use a lot of our own cash. We use banks. So we'll go to the banks and they say, hey, we like what you're doing. We see that you're buying these really cheap. So we will do 80% loan to value.
Okay.
So we're having to come up with 20%. So right now we have a bunch of cash just sitting in all these properties we have going on. We have 10 flips going on right now. And we have, I hate to say it, but we have a lot of our own cash in those deals. We have some private money in them, But we're using the private money to turn and burn the wholesales because the flips are the ones that sit for 6 months.
Right.
So we don't want to put the expensive money in the flips if we don't have to.
And what do you, so like just to gauge, what do you pay the private money? Is it an equity split or do you pay them interest? How does that work with you?
We've negotiated like a 10 like flat 10% on them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Other net proceeds.
No.
Just 10%.
10% interest only.
Gotcha.
Interest. Yeah, we're not giving up profit splits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 10% interest only is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Very cheap.
That's great. It is a big difference for us because like the two I know we're thinking of right now, we have great clean properties, great wholesales, but they're each $500,000. So we got to come up with $1 million to lock down these two deals. And they're great deals. We want to do them.
Yeah.
But that financing gets a little trickier when they're more expensive.
Yeah.
And that's just two.
That's just two of them.
We have probably 3 or 4 more on the board that we want to look at, but these are the 2 good ones. So yeah, that's a problem that we got to figure out.
Would you have anybody who you could speak to about, first of all, a bank doing financing for the majority of that, and then come up with the other 20% down on the down payment? It's just that they would take second position. Obviously, is not ideal.
Yeah,
but
we probably don't need to go to a bank. We have like 4, 5 different lenders that structure deals a little bit differently. You know, some are hard money, some are private money, some are kind of in between. So we have options to go to. And what at the end of the day, what it's going to come down to is just who's going to allow us to take this down with the model that we want to run with for these homes with as little down. And that might be, 10% here, or this guy will do 15 or whatever it is. And we'll just pick the cheapest one and go with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to put some money into it. That's just how it is.
Yeah, we've used Lending Home. I think 90% loan to value. Yeah, and
we use them a lot.
They're not in Nebraska, but we did that on the Florida flip that we did.
Okay,
and so we got a taste of how that process went. It was pretty.
They're
smooth.
pretty heavy here, so we probably have like 8 with them right now. 6, 7, 8.
Lending Home, now Kiavi. They changed their name, but we've probably done 20 something with them in the past 12 months.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Better than not doing 20 deals.
It's great. It's great.
I mean, honestly, their terms are pretty damn cheap and competitive. You know, it's hard to find a local lender that could beat their terms. Yeah, so unless you find someone that has, stacks of cash ready to go for a trustworthy investor, their terms are really hard to beat. It's pretty cheap money.
Why don't we do that too? Anybody that wants to get started and use Kiavi for hard money lending, we'll drop a link to our referral link, code so you can get signed up with them, talk to the people we talk to, and hopefully get some awesome terms if you want to start buying your first flips with hard money.
Yeah, and like you said, you could buy your first flip, so you don't have to be super experienced. Yeah. You could start with 0 flips, and they will lend to you. So check that link below.
That's a good little plug.
For sure.
We've been very selfish. We've asked you lots and lots of information. Is there anything we can give back to you? Because we do something very different.
Yes.
You guys, direct-to-seller marketing, spend a lot on your marketing. You know us a little bit, and for those that don't, we buy pretty much everything we invest here in Vegas with off the MLS, which costs us almost nothing.
Virtually $0 a year in acquisition costs.
So how can we help you?
So it sounds like we're on 2 complete opposite sides of the spectrum here. So you guys started in the off market trying to figure out how to make that work. And then you kind of, maybe you didn't start that way, but you gave it a run.
Yes.
Right?
We've been trying to give it a go for
We've
3
been
years
MLS
now.
driven from the start, and we've seen so many other investors do direct-to-seller marketing, and that's more common for fix and flip investors than MLS people.
Right.
So they've always looked at us like, wow, I wish I could figure out what you figured out. But we're always looking to them and saying like, we want that additional source because we have one, we'd love another.
Yes. So my ask would be is how are you finding all these deals on the MLS, right? Like, I know that's a very loaded question because in the beginning, and I know I just need to take, whatever, go through, grab to the academy, right?
Hop into the Boeckle Brothers Academy and you'll find out.
And anybody watching this should do the same. But but obviously, like, I started out doing that.
Yeah.
Making offers on the MLS, and like it was just me. It was like very like probably low level compared to the amount of effort that goes out. Mm-hmm. I think one thing that was hard for me to understand is how much output do you really have to do to get a deal accepted.
That's the number one.
Off market, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing on MLS is like you're not just going to make 10 offers and get a deal. Like I could make 10 offers on off market on the right lead quality and get a deal.
Yeah.
Right.
And real estate in general comes down to a numbers game, right? No matter which way you go. If you got VAs cold calling direct to seller, it's about how much data can you get them and how many calls they can make. Right. On the MLS side, it's the same thing. How many offers a day can the acquisitions team submit? And to answer your question more specifically, our acquisitions team's probably submitting anywhere between 8 to 15 offers per day, 5 to 6 days a week. I mean, they're working on weekends, they're waking up on holidays and submitting offers, waking up
hundreds of offers a month.
Yeah.
So let's just say 200 offers a month, and we're probably buying an average of 7 to 9 deals a month.
Okay. That's
six to 9 deals a month.
That's amazing. So the biggest thing that I like about it after watching your videos, like, you guys didn't spend any money on marketing.
No.
Like, you don't have the $40,000 of overhead a month.
No.
It's, if I don't do business and I spend that money, nobody's paying me back for it.
Right.
So I have to make sure to have that dialed in. But
yeah, here's a deeper secret for you. You don't even have to be a licensed agent to run the same model that we're running. We're actually, although we are licensed agents and own a brokerage, we don't have to be as investors. As investors, you could partner with an acquisitions agent who is licensed, that does have access to the local MLS, create a split with them, or an equity split, or a system structure with them, and let them run for you. You don't have to be licensed. And a lot of people think you do. Our realtor partner, when he locks a deal up, typically there's 3% commissions offered to the buyer's agent. We split those commissions with him on every deal. And he made probably $500,000-$600,000 last year off of finding properties.
Just finding properties for us.
amazing.
So it's a win-win. A lot of people will say, "Oh, you split the commissions." I wouldn't split my commissions. It's like, okay, well, if we buy 70 to 80 properties off of you, it adds up quick. I'm sure you'll split your commissions. So partnering up with the right person that knows the MLS, knows how to search the MLS, and identify those deals and set up those searches properly is the key. And then it's their motivation. I mean, he's up at 5:30 every morning looking at what came on the MLS that day. He's got offers out on everything that makes sense that day. And then he goes back through, once again, follow-up, how important follow-up is, back through his old, even rejected offers to see if we have an offer rejected, a lot of people will throw that away. He's still hitting that agent every week. Hey, we're still on the table. Hey, offer's still on the table. Offer's still on the table. And I can't tell you how many deals he gets done a year from a rejected offer turning into a deal.
He treats them like direct-to-seller leads that aren't ready.
They are leads.
Essentially.
Oh, yeah.
They go into a follow-up system, and they are contacted, and they see where they're at. Has anything changed? And, okay, we're still here. And just keeping the conversation ignited.
It's a relationship business.
Yeah. It is.
If you reach out and these realtors are like, this guy's a Joe Schmo, he sucks, like, nobody's going to want to do business with you.
Yeah.
But if you're presentable and you come at them with a good intention, it's like, hey, we have value here, they might want to, sell to you for that solution.
I will say, though, also, especially when you're just starting out, don't really know, you just feel like you're sending super low offers onto the MLS, your presentation goes very far.
Okay.
And that's not just with how you handle yourself on the phone.
Right.
It's how many times and what you're talking about when you call that agent. And so I'm talking about calling the agent up front when you find the home. What's going on, being understanding, trying to get to motivation.
It's almost like talking to a seller. You're qualifying.
Talking to a seller.
Same exact situation.
And then going to the property and then calling them back and being like, hey, I went there. Everything you told me about it was right. Or I found this, and did you know about this? And I see this at the house. What about this? Yeah. You're very interested. And then getting home and then maybe drafting an offer, sending the offer with a very nice templated email that explains who you are, explains your previous conversations, what your intentions are, whether you're local, where you come from, your company, everything. So that you tell them your story, and then calling them again. Hey, I sent you that offer just so we can talk a little bit more. Like, this is me. This is what we do. Yeah. Now they know you.
Yeah.
You're not some Joe Blow submitting a
low ball
offer just out of the blue. Now they know this person.
Yeah. Yep. So one thing I was thinking about asking is, like, I think a lot of people who are listening might be wondering the same thing, is like, how low of offers are you making? Because I know for us, when we negotiate directly with a homeowner, people ask me, well, why would anybody ever sell their house to you for that much?
Right.
Why would anybody ever sell their house for 60 to 70% of the retail value? Mm-hmm. And the answer to that question is the speed and the convenience and just the simplicity of it. So when a person's on the MLS, they have all these options. Everyone wants to buy their house. Is it only distressed properties, and at what significant of a discount are we talking about? Because I know that varies per market on what people can pay based on the price point.
Yeah.
So I think you'd be, hard-bound to believe that we pay list for some of these properties that we buy as well. And the luxury side of things, we pay on one property, we paid $25,000 over list. It was listed at 1.4. We paid 1.425 for it. put 280,000 into it and
You
sold it
can't
for
equate
2.2.
list price with ARV.
Wow.
Right.
List price isn't always ARV. It
Right.
might be sometimes,
Yeah.
but it isn't always the same thing.
So do you think a lot of people just overlook that? They just think, oh, it's a list that
Yeah.
this is just what it's worth.
It's listed
Right.
there. It must be worth that, and I can't pay that, so I can't buy that
Yeah.
property.
So if you were to ask us what's our average purchase price compared to market value, we buy 71%. 71 to 73% of market value is where we buy. But that's not always 71% of where they're listed at.
Right.
They could be listed already at 76% of market value, and we're only offering a couple percentage points below their list price,
Gotcha.
which it still makes sense for us. So we buy a lot of properties at list. We pay a lot above list sometimes. Sometimes we buy properties 200,000-300,000 below list.
Yeah.
You know, it all, like you said, depends on the seller's motivation. And a lot of people think the sellers are only motivated on numbers. You don't know anyone's life situation.
Absolutely.
You know, people have, and you know that as well as we do.
Big time.
People's life situations matter sometimes more than the numbers. Getting somewhere within 10 days is a lot more important than sitting on the market for 60, you know, to get a little bit more money.
For sure.
And you'll never know those answers or know the motivation unless you submit those offers in a professional manner and ask the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. So thank you for the insight
Yeah.
on that.
Hopefully we could help a little bit.
Yeah.
We've reached about 45 minutes here. So one thing we'd like to ask you, since a lot of this is tailored to somebody starting out, somebody wanting to get into wholesaling. I think wholesaling was like you said, one of the hottest topics in 2021. Like everybody got into it all of a sudden. So if there is someone out there watching that does want to get started and they're starting from scratch, maybe they're starting by themselves, just like you did, what's a quick little piece of advice you can give them?
Well, I'm not saying to go get pregnant and have a baby, but
The motivation.
you got to have like a why. You have to understand what it is that motivates you and why get into real estate in the first place? Why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
If you have no motivation behind it, then just don't even get started because you're not going to probably be successful. Like for me, I was to the point where I was a breaking point is either I got my deal or maybe I quit.
Yeah.
And if you're just getting started, just keep with it and find a mentor, find somebody who can guide you so you don't have to go through and make all those offers and face all that pain and fail.
That's a fantastic point. If anyone does want to reach out to you to maybe have you give them some advice, can you tell them where they can find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Michael Buys Houses, or you can find me on Facebook at The Michael McDonald, or on YouTube at The Michael McDonald as well.
Nice.
All right.
We'll tag that YouTube channel below.
We absolutely will.
If you guys
Absolutely will.
have any other questions for Michael on wholesaling, real estate, or direct-to-seller marketing, drop a comment below. We're always happy to answer those or link you up with Michael directly. If you have any questions for us, drop a comment below. Jesse and I will answer ourselves.
And he made a great point. If you're looking to find mentors and get into the real estate investment space, we do have a link below to the Boeckle Brothers Academy where you can dive in and get personal coaching from us on a weekly basis for your investing business.
So until then,
We'll see you on the flip side.